I'm Craig Beaumont Flynn. Welcome to Beyond the Design, a show that gives you a peek behind the curtain of the design industry and shares the stories of those that are the driving force behind it. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Craig Beaumont Flynn, your host of Beyond the Design. And today we have with us Patrick Bewley of DUCHATEAU. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Well, Patrick, why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey, what you do, and your transition into DUCHATEAU?
So, I've been in the business for a while, and I'm very fortunate to hold a number of different really great positions at some amazing companies over the time. I was drawn to DUCHATEAU, having been previously at big global brands, with the idea of actually going to work for a small company and building a design brand. So at the time when I first joined there, that was the vision of the founder, that he really wanted to create a lifestyle brand, as what he called it. And really, they were a manufacturer of hardwood flooring. And so the journey for DUCHATEAU to get where it was as a manufacturer, selling to third-party retail, and then to really transition DUCHATEAU to a design-centered brand that would be loved by designers around North America was really the goal and the objective, and something that we've achieved. So it is so that's part of the journey for me with DUCHATEAU, was taking the insights and learnings that I had from my prior experiences with big companies and big global companies, and then apply that to a small company. So part of the fun of that is that because there are so many fewer people, it means that you can actually make decisions pretty quickly. And it also means that you have fewer stakeholders, in which to engage, because you can move the ship. But on the other side, you have far fewer resources, so less money and less people. So you pretty much have to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself. So that is also part of the fun of it, right? Is that you are not looking at it from a distance. You're really getting your hands in there and making those changes. So it's been a rewarding experience.
That's fantastic. Well, what drew you to the luxury architectural finishes industry, and what excites you most about it, especially with DUCHATEAU?
So I've had a long love of design my entire life, and I've loved residential architecture and commercial architecture, and I love to travel, and I've been doing this, my entire life. But also, it's always a key component to all the positions that I've held. The positions I've held run a tremendous gamut. So there's not one specific industry, and yet there's always commonalities. And it really comes down to the customer. The commonality is really about creating that experience for the customer and how you shape that impression and that experience for them, and the things that you can do to create loyalty, and that they would think that it's a brand for me and that they want to participate. And that exists in any company that I work for. So although I've had a love of architecture and design my entire life, it really was more rooted in the idea of getting close to this specific customer, the interior designer. So that was for me where the draw was. My background started in high school with my best friend and I putting on a theater company, and I was able to pay my way through college actually through that money that I earned creating these theater productions, which is kind of hard to believe. But that's what we did. And then I had a short stint working for repertory theaters around the country. But what stayed with me with that experience was that when you were inviting people in to, either the show or to your store or to your brand, you are creating an experience for them. And you're always thinking about how can you shape that experience in ways that excites them and challenges them, and makes them want to come back and to experience more. So that always has been in the back of my mind. So I've worked for some great brands. So I worked for Williams-Sonoma, which is pots and pans. I worked for Discovery Channel, which is all television shows. I worked for the Gap as an apparel, so I oversaw all sub brands under the Gap. So that ranges everything from baby and kids to adult men's and women's and body. So that's very diverse portfolio. And then I took over head of brand for Sony Electronics. So electronics, so it's completed. Now you're talking about televisions and headphones and all the rest of it. And then I did global work for Sony. So that now includes gaming, pictures, music, and electronics. So we launched Be Moved. So you can see a very wide, diverse range of products. So what we're selling is really secondary. It's really how we sell it. So coming to DUCHATEAU and knowing the vision of the two founders and what they wanted to, Mitch and Betty, what they wanted to achieve, that meant that we would really go look at everything. So everything from our branding, our logo, and always this idea that we're constantly improving. So we take the resources we have when we basically we do what we can with them, but also we change our go-to-market strategy. So we were originally only focused on third-party retail, and we were only focused in on the trade press. So now what we've done is that right from the outset, we said we need to change this. We need to focus in on interior designers because they're the ones who are specifying this. And they're the ones that specify us over and over again. And so their lifetime value is really with them. And so we really need to get close to them. We did that through a variety of different ways. But that was a seismic shift in the world of flooring because it's all about working through third-party retailers. So that also meant that who we hired into our company also changed. So it meant that we needed salespeople that loved interior design and that they spoke the language of interior designers and that they could identify what they were needing. So that was a big shift. And then on the media side, not that we love to trade publications, but what we need to do is focus in on the shelter magazine, so Architectural Digest, etc. So we've seen tremendous success. We actually were just on the cover of Architectural Digest last year. So we've had countless pickups in different shelter magazines since we made the decision. So really, from high to low, from every little aspect, it was really making those changes and really getting behind it. Go ahead. You asked me though, what was it about specifically about architectural design and interior finishes that drew me? So I've not had the personal experience of designing flooring. So until this company. So this was something brand new for me. So when I was hired, that was not what was on my plate. It was the product development side of it was somebody else. And through various different circumstances, I leaned in. And we had someone that left the company and we had a void that we need to do. It was the pandemic and there was a little bit of a global crisis, as you know, with shipping and containers and a place. And so we were like, okay, I really need to lean in here. And I can learn. And I had just designed homes and sold them and did very well with that. So I loved flooring. In fact, I had some number of experiences in creating great looking floors and having them hand milled and stuff like that. So the opportunity was too good to pass up. So Benjamin Buzali and I, one of the founders and I, rolled up our sleeves and we started to design flooring. And what ended up happening was that I actually started from a place that we hadn't been to before. What I started was I took all the influences that I had in all my travels and things that I was interested in, me personally, as well as the conversations that I was having with interior designers and things that I was seeing sort of on the market in terms of a trend level, in terms of how architecture was changing, how interior design was changing. So through conversations and observations, sort of seeing that, plus my own personal points of reference, and also looking at the mistakes that had been made, either by other retailers or within house. And so all of that, we ended up, before we even started anything, we actually created a design brief that really identified exactly the colors we were looking for, exactly this tone and look that we're looking for, even down to the sandpaper grit that should be used, to really develop something very special. and we created the names, the theme, everything before we even started the project. Before even we saw colors, we had a very clear idea of what we wanted to accomplish, um, from the aesthetic as well as the wrapper that we wanted to put around it, which to my mind is the storytelling, the inspiration, and the tones that really make up what we now call the DUCHATEAU point of view.
Right. Well, DUCHATEAU is known for its blend of old world craftsmanship and state of the art technology. How do they maintain the balance in their products?
So the part of it is that when we take a look at old world technology and we take a look at sort of this hand finished in the European tradition, as well as
Right.
the idea of modern technology, the two really go hand in hand. What I would say probably more germane is it's all about nuance, truly. And so
Mhm.
there's a color. So it's all about color and texture and basically the visual. So it's all about the visual. That's exactly it. So there's one color that didn't sell at all. It was a complete dud, that somebody had brought in, and it's extremely similar to this color called Alpine, which is part of our Terra collection. And so the color is almost identical, except the Alpine has that little certain something. It's not as orange. It's a little more brown. There's a luminosity that comes in, and it has this sparkle and personality where it just shines through. The natural beauty of the wood shines through, and that's that nuance where you look at it. So the other one that comes in has no personality. It's kind of dull and dead. In many ways, it's that color that didn't sell, is really what you see on the mass market. It's no different than anything else that's in the market, right? It's very, very, very vanilla, very boring, safe. It does what
Right.
it's supposed to do. This other color, which is remarkably similar, has that spark, that little certain something that you can look at it. It actually gives you chills when you can feel like when you look at it, you go, oh, that's the difference. And of course, one is a massive hit, and right, it's one of our top 10 colors, and the other one did not
Right.
sell 1 square foot. So it's really it really comes to me. It's really about the characteristics. The other thing is that we have manufacturing partners. So we manufacture flooring in Baja in our own factory there. We're actually coming out with an amazing new line. I can tell you that in a bit. It's spectacular, a very fun idea. And then we also do hand finishing in our own factory, which is hand finished, top of the line, in our home office. We actually have a manufacturing plant in our home corporate headquarters, which is fun to see.
Mm.
And we do some amazing things like burn the wood to get the dark.
Right. The original. Yeah.
And then we have manufacturing partners in other parts of the world. And I just came back from visiting them. One was in Thailand. It was a manufacturing partner for us. But quite often, when we deal with those manufacturing partners, they have state-of-the-art technology, but they skew the color a different way. And it really comes down to you constantly have to balance what they're good at, which is creating these, engineered floors, while simultaneously making sure that it's distinctly has your stamp. So I look at the competition and I have no interest in copying them. I'll say, oh, well, I would have changed this or I would have changed that, or that doesn't seem quite right, or this is very nice. But, for us, I would rather have less. I would rather bring less into the market, and what we bring in is spectacular. Like you look at it and you go, that's amazing. So in fact, all of the new products that we brought in, the last 3 collections, are pretty much 85% of the business in the top 20. So it's all, and it's really from that sort of DUCHATEAU point of view.
Right. Can you elaborate on DUCHATEAU's philosophy of bridging nature with fashion and architecture?
I can. So the first thing is, and what drawn me to DUCHATEAU is that we love fashion. So it's one of the pillars of our brand. So we think about interior design, and we think about the world of ideas, which is the arts and travel to amazing locations and incredible hospitality, properties, hotels, resorts, We think about great restaurants and amazing food and great place food and the top 50 restaurants around the world. We think about the world of ideas, the novels and books and the things that, wonderful movies. It really, this whole idea about fashion, right? This love of fashion. We have some designers, we love Tom Ford, we love Saint Laurent, we love the craziness of Gucci. We also that sort of sexy rock and roll side. At the end of the day, we're not trying to be everything for everybody, but for those that we want them to love us because we love these things, right? So to us, music and fashion and the arts and food and travel all go hand in hand. It's all about experience. And so if you're part of the world of ideas and you're having conversations and you are engaging with other people there's certain ideas that come to play, and you certainly can translate that into the colors that you're choosing and the products that you're choosing to bring in. We expanded our offering to include other parts of the home, so kitchens, baths. We now have appliances through Middleby, third-party brands. We included all those luxury closets because we wanted to be more part of more parts of the house, of the home. And we wanted to be able to participate, even though flooring is really our mainstay. We realized we had permission to do more. And for us, it's really about, when we say fashion, there is a trend. Sometimes there is a trend ideas that are there, but really it's essentials and style. And when we think about style, that's DUCHATEAU. So when we think about fashion and style, it's really about, having a pucker square, right? Something that takes it to the next level, right? Right? Just
that little added touch.
Added touch, right? And for our audience, the people that love us and love DUCHATEAU, we get them and they get us, right? So it's the idea that we're sort of inhabiting the same world where we care about many of the same things. So I'm going to give you an example. So we know that dressier visuals are something that we're personally interested in because we see these amazing new projects using incredible new technology of building construction and tremendous amount of use of steel that kind of allows cantilever, bigger panes of glass, new technology and different things that are being employed in spaces. And the flooring that seems right is a little dressier, right? It's a little cleaner. So we created a whole new line that's coming out this summer. It's called Society with an E at the end, French. And that collection is a clean grade collection, meaning that there's no knots. It's very, very dressy and kind of modern looking. And it's specifically designed for these type of rooms, these type of spaces that are being developed. So we are always kind of looking at kind of like what are the things that we're inspired by, and then how does our flooring and our offering kind of marry back into that.
How does DUCHATEAU ensure its products are timeless in the essence of design, since the design industry is ever evolving, ever changing? There's the it factor. And how is that curated design making a statement in the industry with designers?
Sure. So here's what I would say is that I could relate it in a couple of different ways. So basically there's what you're now referring to as essentials, right? When you're talking about something that basically is timeless, the first thing I would say is that there actually is no such thing as timeless as in forever, because even in the world of, you bring in vintage, right? Like I work in the apparel industry, you bring in vintage and actually the fit and the materials are not quite right. So you can bring in vintage as inspiration pieces. I worked with, product designers for apparel, and they would bring in this like cool Chanel jacket, and they would say, well, yes, but we're going to change the shoulder a little bit, and we're going to change the rise a little bit. You make little tweaks. It's like I also worked in denim, right? In the world of denim, my gosh, you can talk about timeless denim, but I think back in the day, we launched low-rise jeans for women, and they were canted. We actually developed a technology to cant them up in the back because they were always falling down. Now women have these high-waisted jeans and they're enormous. So the world does change, including flooring. So we look at even products that when I first joined, that were number one sellers, that actually we would make little tweaks here and there, and always there's the element of. So here's the thing that I would think is, well, there's a spirit which is timeless, and the spirit of timelessness is the idea that style is everlasting, right? This idea of joie de vivre, this idea of the good life, of enjoying the company, and creating spaces for the best company, right? And the idea of bringing people together. So these are timeless ideas about people wanting to congregate, wanting to bring together, to create spaces that enhance their lives and make them better, and that they answer the needs for them for that day. And so those are themes that I would say are timeless. But everything else, does actually shift and change. So, for instance, there used to be a day when I first joined when there was lots of articulation into the words, like what they would chatter marks, and as if the blade had sort of skipped, right? All these kinds of little extra stuff. Like if you were a super distressed gene, right, and you would make it all crazy. There was a saying that was like flooring the same way. At DUCHATEAU, we've dialed that way, way back. We have much less interest in that, and instead, for us, it's really about finding the perfect tone. So we just launched today a new color called ether, and we call it ether. Ether is the space of the Greeks called the space above clouds, right? So it's ether.
Right.
So it's the space above clouds, this beautiful, beautiful air. And we were looking for the perfect beige that didn't have any surface haze, was unclouded. It's kind of wonderful, nuanced color. And so there's an evocative quality of calling it ether. But the inspiration was this perfect tone that had this luminosity to it, and it didn't cast dirty yellow, it didn't cast gray, it didn't cast olive, it didn't cast orange. And beige is a composite color, so it's basically bringing all these different colors into it. So to get that balance just perfect, we tried over and over and over and over again. I would say, no, it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. And then my development team at the home office were like, okay, I'm gonna keep thinking. I'm like, like over and over again until finally, but I kept thinking, I know we're gonna get there. And finally they did. And we looked at it like, oh, okay, that's it. So if you start with the idea, right? We started with the idea, ether was the name. We started another one with solstice. The solstice also launching today. We had that idea of that name for 3 years. And we've been in the back of our head, that name, that product was that color we've been wanting. And we were just waiting for the day when we finally could do it. And we finally figured it out. And so that's launching. But we knew in our head what we wanted. It's just a question of getting it.
So what are some of the key strategies you've implemented to elevate DUCHATEAU's brand presence?
Yeah. So the first thing is, as I mentioned previously, it was that we really had to understand that for us was getting to the designer. So that was a go-to-market strategy, getting in front of designers. The second would be is we created something called Society DUCHATEAU, which is a designer loyalty program. So it essentially gives some benefits to the designer, whether that's making sure that they get samples of the newest products or information about the new products, or we give them promotions to help them specify a project into a special project. We will give them a screamy discount on something if I ask for photos in return. We share their photos on our social pages. We put them on our website. We do a directory on our website that calls them out, so we're driving traffic to them. So you keep going. Part of that was we had some conversations with designers, and we asked them, like, what do you want from a vendor? And what they said was, so I think probably the biggest initiative that you would say is we asked the questions, we listened. The first thing we did was we asked our customer, like, what do you want? And they said, I actually want someone to believe in me. I want vendors on my side. And that is a huge unlock because, most of our designers are, for the most part, are women. They're probably between 35 and 55. They often have kids. Many of them are paying their way through college. They often have blended families. The different relationships have moved on around. So the business is in their name. There is no plan B. So this is what they have, right? And they do very well with their business, and they really care about the relationships they have with their clients. Will often do with their clients' homes over and over again, different homes or different times of their lives. Um, so they're very loyal to their staff, which is often small, and they're very loyal to their client base. And they really need someone, all vendors, whether it's installers or flooring companies, to believe in them and to be on their side and want to help them and are there for them. And that doesn't seem like that much to so much to ask, but really, then you start with that insight. You can say, okay, what can we do, and what are the things that matter?
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, initially we still do. We gave them, a small amount of cash for every square foot they specified, and it turned out that's not what they want. They can care less about
Right.
that, right? What they really want is they want really amazing product. They want the product to look great all the time, but they also want a customer care team that's there to answer their questions. They want a certain friendliness and excitement when they reach out to us and they have photos. They want us to promote them and help their business drive traffic to them. So these are the types of things that we've put into play. The next thing we put into play was we changed our product assemblies. I spoke to a little bit about that, but it was really about defining what our DUCHATEAU point of view was and how we were different from our competition. And in fact, DUCHATEAU was the very first to bring in a European style visual. And that's what put DUCHATEAU on the map. So being different than everybody else. At the time, it was a lot of exotics and lots of red floors and sort of heavy stains. And DUCHATEAU brought in this product that everybody copied. We're taking that spirit and continuing to do that. So we're famous for the matte finish floor using this reactive, so this very super ultra matte finish. The entire industry has copied us. So I'm going to give you a little insight into something. We're actually bringing in a shiny floor, a shiny wood floor.
Oh, really?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So we put it in front of a design council. So that was another thing that we installed. We brought in a council of interior designers who come to our office and we meet with them. We're having a next one in October. And we asked them, like, what do you think of this product? And do you like it? Would you make any changes? And kind of get their insights before we would put the investment behind it. And we put this in front of them. And I think there was a lot of conversation internally, like, well, we love it, but who knows if it's, and they were like, oh my God, it's amazing. And they were like, no one does this. No one is doing a shiny floor. And part of me was like, oh yeah, well, that's why we have to do it. I would rather zing than zag. I'd rather not follow everybody else. I'd rather us do our own thing. And so, so that shiny floor is absolutely spectacular. And it's coming in 2 programs. The first program is called Perfect Beige. So it's a set of 5 perfect beige colors. And then it's another set of 5 perfect, I call ideal brown, 5 ideal brown shades. And it comes in a matte finish and a shine finish. But that's an example where we are going to turn the industry on its head again, because, and although it may seem like a small idea at first, I've already been looking at the most kind of like sort of forward looking designs, and I'm seeing shiny floors. But I knew it was coming. Like we knew it was going to be there, because this reflectivity and this glamour that you get suddenly feels fresh and interesting.
Well, my next question is, what role does innovation play in DUCHATEAU's product development, and how do you stay ahead of the design trends? You kind of already gone through that, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, so innovation is one of the 4 values that we hold, and in our company. So initiative is one, loyalty is another, and at innovation. So I'm very fortunate that I get to interview everybody in the company and who wants to join. And one of the questions I ask them is, how does innovation play a role in your personal and professional life? And if you can give me an example, and it can be big or small, because innovation actually is big or small. It's not like something to change the world. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
Sometimes innovation is tiny and minute. And yet those are those incremental improvements. There's some work cultures have this idea that, um, so let me tell you this. First off, innovation has to be a part of a culture. It's not just that a few people are actually trying to do something different and new,
Mm-hmm.
solving a problem. It's actually, it needs to be embedded in everything, the entire culture of the company. So Sony has this idea word kaizen, which is this constant and continuous improvement, which is a Japanese term. And to my
Mm-hmm.
mind, that is what innovation is all about. It's not always the breakthrough idea; it's also the little ideas that then add up. But the spirit of it is that you're never done. So I've worked for companies where there was this idea that, okay, we could just get our systems and processes in place, or we could just sort of have our roles aligned, or we just have expectations more clear. Always kind of operation side. If we could just get all that figured out, then we wouldn't need to make any of these changes. I promise, and then we'll just be able to coast. And that is a pipe dream because it never works out that way. In fact, you're far better off embracing the idea that you're always looking to improve, always, that you're never done. And that's part of the fun and joy of work, is the idea that you get that opportunity to make a difference. And so that's what I ask people. It's like, what did you do, to make a difference? How did you use innovation? And what I get back is often kind of incredible. The things that people have done that initially they didn't even realize were that big of a deal, but turned out to be a big deal. How we look at innovation is to our mind, it's that we're never looking at our competition to copy. I have no interest. Now, I wish them the best, and I actually don't. And in fact, I don't want them to fail. I think that a healthy industry is good for everybody. So there's plenty to go around, but I don't have any interest in looking to say, oh, I wish I did that, or we should copy that, or absolutely not. It never, to my mind, innovation comes within your world, the things that you're talking about, the things that you are thinking of and seeing and wanting, and that actually gives you a much better platform because you're actually looking at the conversations you're having with your retailers, and the conversation you're having with the designers, and the conversations you're having with the builders, and your own experiences going to properties and see things and travel, and how you can incorporate them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of it is if you look at if you look at the big idea, right? In terms of innovation, so when you're innovating, it's very difficult to push water uphill, which means that you need to start with great, because the gravity of life is going to bring you down. So start with the big idea. Like, what is this you're trying to achieve? I always hesitate to mention it, but Elise and I, who works on product development, she's a product manager. She and I were trying to get a perfect bleached floor, and we're using an exotic to do it. And we were an exotic wood, and we had this idea, this big idea, and it just never. And then one day it was like, oh my God, it is. But it was that pushing, knowing that we had the idea, and we just needed to fix the technology to figure it out. But then once we got it, we're like, okay, that's amazing. And we're actually building an entire collection based on a theme that we already knew that we wanted. And we knew this was a key component that had to be in the collection. And we were looking at doing exotics in a different way, in a way that nobody else in the market was doing, because we had this idea of what we were trying to achieve. And so to me, innovation often is, don't start with what's possible, start with what you're trying to achieve. What's the big idea? And then gather some great people and some enthusiasm. And believe, right, that it can be done, and some encouragement telling us we can get there, always holding true to kind of that North Star, like what you're trying to get to. And I see this with marketing. This is a big marketing thing too. Like if you're doing advertising, TV commercials, or what have you, if you start with just a good idea, sometimes you see this where people are like, well, we can kind of improve it by doing this, that, and the other. It's like, forget it. Never happened. Never.
Right. Well, one part of innovation is sustainability and corporate responsibility. Can you tell us more about Do Good Initiative and DUCHATEAU's commitment to the environment?
Yes. So DUCHATEAU cares deeply about the environment because it's a part of the world that we live in. So the first thing is that we are always looking for flooring that uses only chemicals or reactives or processes or people or place or factories that are ethical. So not just
Hmm.
sustainable, ethical. And in fact, we spend quite a bit of money on testing, even though we're told one thing to test. So we just recently had a situation where we were ready to walk because there was a chance that it wasn't ethical. And a chance that it needed to be proven where the source of the material came from, and that source was there was a broken in the chain and need to be fixed. So the first is make sure that everyone's paid, and we need to prove that they're paid and how they're paid.
Right.
We need to make sure that the material that we're using is sourced from sustainable sources and also not from certain parts of the world that are shady. We need to make sure that the chemicals that are used are won't, by the state of California, cause harm, right? So I mean, there's a lot of that goes into that, but it's also the idea that when you talk about do good, the idea there is
Hmm.
planting trees. So for every floor that we sell, there's a certain square footage amount. We then plant a tree. So we actually donate to the um, Wildlife Association, the federal life, and that is a nonpartisan um, 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 that was founded by Congress to reforest the national park systems. So, for instance, there was a huge fires out in California. We were able to distort some of our contributions to help that. There was forest fires all over in Texas and the South. We were able to distort efforts there. We've been able to plant a significant amount of seedlings, and we're proud to be able to do that.
It's fantastic. Congrats and applause and accolades to DUCHATEAU for doing that.
Yeah.
How do you foster a culture of creativity and collaboration within your DUCHATEAU team?
So, that's always a conversation that we have. Certainly, it's the people that you hire, right? So,
Right.
if you want this, if you want a happy company or a happy team, hire happy people. So there's that, right? Um, but also, one of the things that Jason Edelman, our new CEO, brought to the table was he said, assume best intentions, which I love that because sometimes and you definitely see this in big companies, but even in small companies, people make assumptions and they're often the wrong assumptions, and particularly
Right.
assumptions about people's motivations, right? So you're talking about creativity. That's a creativity killer, right? If you do not trust each other and you trust that they have the best intentions, if you feel like that is not it's not a safe place in which to share ideas, you're going to contain yourself, right? And but if everyone feels like that that everyone has the chance to share their opinion and they're asked, and that they see that other people are sharing their opinion and it's a safe place to do so, and they will say, like today, we just had a situation where we were looking at why some of our older colors why they're not performing as well, which has been replaced by new colors. But nonetheless, we still asked the question. We didn't assume.
Right.
So we asked the question to our sales team, and they came up with a whole bunch of different stuff that some of we knew, some of we didn't know. But was reading these emails today, and I was thinking, the best part about this is that everyone feels safe and to share, right? And to my mind, that is where creativity comes to play. Is that you have to have a safe place in which you feel like the first great creative places embrace people and the best of who they are, and because otherwise you're only going to deliver what's safe, and
True.
sometimes
Yeah.
the best ideas are not safe, and they a little crazy, right? Or also intuitive, right? And you
Just
think,
like life.
right? Yeah. So, and so, if you want people to take ownership and to come up with creative solutions and to be able to share and to be able to, they can't be afraid. They have to be no feeling of fear. They have to be able to do that. The other thing I would say is, is uh, recognition, casual and in the moment, is probably the best form, a way of encouraging that. So you're killing it. If that's a comment that you receive, that means more than anything else, right? Those simple little comments, which we just means that. So, for instance, creativity could be coming with cool names for products and coming with a theme and that kind of creativity. Like, for instance, we're doing a golden brown color. We're calling it Eiffel Brown because we're naming it after the Eiffel Tower, which is changing its color for the first time since 1967 in time for the Olympics, which is a golden color. So we're bringing in this golden brown color, calling it Eiffel Brown. And so that's an example of creativity. But it can also be like we were just working on our current website and we were changing the functionality, and I had someone on my team who was very creative in coming up with problem solving, like how to figure it out. And we were thinking, oh, well, I'll give you an example. We had to finish something by Friday. And then it occurred to me and my teammates that unforeseen that if we completed it by Friday, we would have too many buttons. We'd have hundreds, right? We're like, no, we need a drop-down menu so that there's product attributes and, technical, but in a delay. So I wasn't going to be afraid. I was going to send a message to say, listen, we're going to have a delay, but it's going to be a better customer experience. And the response was, that sounds great. That sounds great. And, if you always think about that and you're not afraid, then you can come up with creative solutions that are really the better solution.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Part of life too. Making good solutions and better solutions.
Yes, exactly.
How does DUCHATEAU stay competitive in a market where many luxury brands are in the same space?
So we don't think of ourselves as being very similar to the rest of our flooring competition. So most of them are either really involved in commercial space, which we are too, but not significantly, or they're very involved in mass. And we think that there's almost nobody in our space actually inhabits the world of fashion in flooring, right? So we kind of hold on to a kind of a unique space. And if anything, we have to remember that. So that's where we have failed is because we have not stayed true to the unique space that we actually own. And so the way we stay competitive is actually not copying and not trying to be in their space. We're really just being in our space, right? So that really is the number one thing. The other thing is that you can have short-term gains. You can have short-term, you can look at, profit margins and short-term wins doing same as product. And it's very compelling. But from a brand perspective, it does nothing for the brand, right? It gives you a quick win, but it doesn't help you from a brand perspective. So that's why I said earlier, like I would rather us deliver less, but everything we deliver is great. So that when you receive it, you're like, oh God, yeah, that's great. Look, did you see what DUCHATEAU is?
What are some of the exciting projects or products currently in the pipeline for DUCHATEAU? You briefly mentioned some, but what else is on the board?
Yeah, so I'm just going to recap. So we've got this clean grade line, which is absolutely spectacular, and that's called Society Collection. And it is really for the best rooms and the best company. It's really what designers have been asking for. And these shades are incredibly nuanced, very dressy, beautiful visual. We're going to sell out of everything. So that's one. The second is, it's going to be a home run. The second is this whole idea called perfect beige and ideal brown. So very limited shades. You're able to choose between this brown or this beige and this beige, very close, and bringing in innovation. It's a clean grade product, but it's innovation in this luster finish that you have as options. But you also, we're creating you can actually do these colors in an 8-inch plank, a 9.5-inch plank, a herringbone, a chevron, and a medallion. So we're giving the customer anything that they want to be able to do. We also have something we just launched into market, which is what we launched at HD Expo, and it's called Motif. And it is flat and dimensional patterned wall covering and floors. So imagine little shapes that are cut and shaped and sanded and put together by hand with our factory in Baja.
Right.
And then the flat versions of that go on the floor and the dimensional versions go on the wall. So you can actually drench an entire room with the same pattern. It's amazing. And it comes in a walnut and an oak, and you can also do some other stuff. And then we have a new product that is launching in September, and we're doing that. It's called Moderne. We were inspired it's the French Moderne at the end.
Right.
And we were inspired by French streamlined modern design from the early 30s in France. And there was an element of what we were inspired by was the kind of dressier visual of these horizontal lines. So there's lots of slat wall that's out there in the market, and we carry an amazing slat wall. But what we wanted to do was this fluting idea. Flutes was like almost like Greek columns, where they've got the flutes.
Correct. Right.
That idea. And we've also created this very innovative link system so that you can actually take this wall and go around corners and edges and stuff like that, or kitchen islands, and you can create these curves using these flutes like a column. It'll come in a walnut and an oak and a variety of other colors. It also comes in paint grade. And so you have the ability to paint, we'll paint it for you in any color that you want. So there's or you can just have it in white and paint yourself. That collection we're going to be launching at the trade show at the end of the year with a influencer, and it's absolutely a home run. It's amazing. There's other products similar, but nothing quite with the technology that I just described, which enables you to go around curves and corners, but also the scale and the quality of it, right? So that's the DUCHATEAU difference, is that we're giving you like a variety of different scales that you can play with.
What is behind the name DUCHATEAU?
Of the castle. So that's originally when I first joined, it had an umlaut and a tilde and a and a serif font. It was all the different stuff thrown in there.
Right.
It was great at the time. But this idea, the idea is this European idea of flooring that would be in old structures in Europe, aged in place. And so this concept of flooring that has seen the colors that have been modified by sun, wind, or time, or aged in place in an ancient building. And so that's really the aesthetic. That was really the initial aesthetic. And so that's where that name comes from. And then we changed that to one word, DUCHATEAU, because everybody was calling us, when I was talking to people, we're all calling us DUCHATEAU as one word. So we changed it to that as a word mark so that people would say, And the moment we did that, the moment people looked at us and they said, oh, you're a design brand.
Click.
It's just a quick unlock. Yeah.
Well, Patrick, what legacy or impact do you hope to leave through your work at DUCHATEAU?
People. So I'm very fortunate that I get a chance to actually work with some wonderful people. And, I worked with some wonderful people over the years at different companies. And I'm grateful that I actually just hired a contractor with somebody that I used to work with at another company she's just so wonderful. So I'm very fortunate. I had this, I'm very, personally, I'm very drawn to a certain type of person. So a person who's enthusiastic and has lots of energy and comes solution driven and kind of, has a certain internal motivation to kind of dig in and to figure things out. And they can have different skill sets. Some can be very detail oriented. Some people can be very, poor with the details, but great big ideas. But there's a certain kind of personal care that they give to the love of what they do, where they're always kind of like, I can figure this out. And I'm very, very fortunate. So, and I love mentoring. So I've been very fortunate to be able to work with some incredible people. And sometimes I identify, I'm like, oh, so this one guy on my team, I had been looking for everywhere for people, and I was interviewing all these different people, and they were all great. But I would ask a question, and no one really gave me the answer. And I asked this guy who is in his 20s. He barely just got out of graduate school, so and he just finished his internship, right? So he has no experience, and the way
Green.
totally green, completely green. And he answered the question, and I thought within 5 minutes, I was like, I really don't need to continue this conversation. I just need to hire him because that I knew that that what he brought, not the experience, but the type of person he was exactly what DUCHATEAU needed, and that I would be able to mentor him to take over my job one day. So so to me, that would be the legacy. I would hope that the people that I've worked with in other companies, they've all grown and moved on to their careers, and I would hope that I would have the same. Whether that's positive reinforcement, or whether that's courageous conversations, or whether that's
Right.
celebrating wins, whatever it is, that they would take some of what we learned together, and that they would then embrace that and move on to their careers. So that would be my legacy.
Well, Patrick, share with us a personal story or experience that has significantly impacted your career to take you to where you're at now.
Ah, gosh. There's so many. There's so many different instances. Okay, I'll tell you. Well, there's something, but this one. I'm not sure why I'm choosing this one, but I did remember. So I was working. Oh, this actually is a good one for a good reason. I was working at the Gap, and at the time, the Gap was the largest specialty retailer in the world. We sold more jeans than anybody else, including Levi's, and this was the year we did it. This was back in 2006. So everything was about to change because the iPhone was just about to launch, and that changed people's shopping experience. And so you didn't need, 1,000 stores. My team was overlooking 3,000 businesses in North America, but that's a lot of retail. But with online shopping, everything changed. So at the time, the Gap was culture. I mean, I don't remember the ads, but there was water cooler talk. Everybody talked about it, and in fact, not only did everybody talk about it, but it was on the news. They would say, "Did you see the Gap ad?" And they were like on the evening news, right? I mean, it's like, so the kind of earned media was off the hook, and part of it was cheeky and fun and had a point of view. Okay, so I'm having a conversation in New York City at the headquarters in this wonderful sort of a building with the big white columns and the brick walls, and all the racks of clothing. And we're working in the design studio, and someone in the head of design said, we were talking about technical. So when the head of design was saying, like, I really want to bring in sportswear, like athletic clothing, which we call technical because it's technical fabric. So it's fabric that stretches. It's like this. Right? It's fabric that has movement to it, right? And the head merchant said, "No, we're not going to do that. We have no permission. We have no permission in that space. We're a cotton-based company." That was a disaster. That conversation, basically, now we had enough money at the time. We were minting money that we could have bought every technical factory in the world. We could have bought every expert in technical. We could have innovated on technical stuff. We could have pivoted the entire company to technical. Right? And the head designer saw it. They saw what was happening in terms of the innovation that was going on in technical sportswear. Now, Lululemon is the Gap of today, right? So Lululemon, Canadians, yoga company, exactly. So there you go. They're the Gap, right? Everybody wants this, and the plastic bottles or whatever, right? But this kind of it moves with you, it can last forever. It's stylish. You look good in it. You kind of feels athletic. Basically, it's tapping into what Gap had tapped into, which was this idea that you can make it your own. And So that's what, these new technical companies are doing, is they're figuring like the inside is, you can take our code, but you can make it your own and you can use it for whatever you want to, whether it's for a grocery store or actually doing yoga. Doesn't matter, right?
Right.
And so to me, I bring this up because that is something I remind myself all the time. Everything changes all the time. And you have to, so the big learning for me is don't look back, look forward. And you're always changing, and you have to ask yourself, what do you have permission to do, right? And what do you think you don't have permission to do, but you actually do?
Right.
So we would never have brought in, we would never brought in kitchens. So we have this amazing kitchen design company that we've just started, but we never would have brought that in if we didn't think we had permission. So that was the conversation we had, which is, well, we do have permission because the line item for floors is the second highest. The first highest is usually the cabinetry. So you're already doing business with us on super, big investments, right? And so we asked people, I said, would you buy a DUCHATEAU kitchen? And they all said, oh yeah, well, sure, why not, right? So that gave us the permission to say, well, let's do this then.
Fantastic. Lululemon. Gotta love it. So what is next for closing comments? What's next for you and for DUCHATEAU?
So there's a lot that's on the horizon for DUCHATEAU. Some that you'll just have to be surprised and to sort of see. But what we're looking at is really, I would say two things that's really on our minds right now. So you're going to see a lot of new product innovation, and a lot of new product introductions over this next year. So there's probably we're bringing in more new product than we ever had before. So that's on our horizon for DUCHATEAU. The other piece of it is that we are relentless in creating this design brand, and we want to create a big global brand that people recognize and know. And we're going to be doing that on a variety of different fronts. But the first one is awareness. So we're changing our awareness strategy. The first thing is get the product right. Now we're amplifying our awareness strategy to get out there a lot more and to be a much bigger sort of player in the world of design and to be recognized and known. But that's far away from conversion, the furthest away from typical conversion. And then we're also honing in on how we convert. So we just, as of Friday of last week, we just made samples free for anyone. So if you are a person looking for either a homeowner or a designer, and you're looking for a solution for your project, you're looking for an amazing floor, you now can get a free sample from DUCHATEAU. And we also give you all these other resources. So we give you basically an inspiration gallery, and we give you the ability, if you're a designer, to sign up for Society with DUCHATEAU, and a whole host of other things. But we're having that conversation with people that are the closest to conversion. So we're really looking at both, right? We're looking at how do we get sort of known, and then simultaneously, what can we do to really be easy to do business with, to really think of ourselves as the best friend for designers and homeowners and our retailers, our customers, and what can we do to really be the best for them, and also answer their needs at the moment on their terms when they need it.
Well, Patrick, it's been a pleasure to have you on our show and a pleasure to meet you as well. And I want to thank you for your time today and telling us a little bit about yourself and DUCHATEAU.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Design. Subscribe for more inspiring conversations to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes content. See you next time.
Hi, you're listening to a Pod for Good Media Network podcast. We are a network that provides podcasting production services and a supportive community in which podcasters can thrive. If you're a podcaster local in the Tulsa area, we would love to have your show on the network. If you are interested in starting one, we would love to help you get started. Find us online at podforgoodmedia.com and fill out our Pod With Us form. Happy podcasting.